Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you guys have probably been inundated with virtual meetings and conferences, so thank you for joining us. My name is Kelly Grellis, and I'm going to talk to you today about using behavioral finance to improve employee outcomes. You will be able to submit questions throughout the presentation, and what will happen is I will get a report after, and I will be able to respond to those questions at the email address that you registered with. So feel free to submit those as we go, and you will receive a response in the next few days. So the BFA behind my name stands for Behavioral Financial Advisor. This is something I've been passionate about for a long time. And I think that there has been a lot of progress made in this arena. What I wanted to kick off with was a little meme that I created to share with you guys, and I think that this will be relatable. So, what my clients think I do, what my friends think I do, what my boss thinks I do, and what I actually do. And I do believe that as 401k advisors, a lot of what we do is counseling. I think that this is a huge advantage that we have over robo options. There's been a lot of conversation about should we worry about robo, and a lot of people are going to robo. And I think that the people that we get the feedback from the most that have is there was something missing, right? When they were worried, who could they call? When they had a life event, who could they call? We are human. We feel, we see others' feelings. They share their fears with us. They share their dreams. They talk to us about their family situations. They talk to us about their financial challenges. So a lot of what we do is counsel. If that last photo doesn't resonate with you now, I hope that it will by the end of this presentation. When I interviewed with my current boss, he asked me, "Do you like to help people?" We hadn't looked at my resume. He hadn't reviewed any of the screenings from all of the tests that I had taken as part of the screening process, but he just plainly said, "Do you like to help people?" He knew he could teach me everything else, but that desire to see other people succeed, it had to be innate. So that was really the foundation of that conversation. I think a key to communicating effectively and getting the results that we're looking for and our plan sponsors are looking for and our participants are looking for is in behavioral finance. So behavioral finance has been around for a while. There have been several well-known pioneers in the field. You've heard a lot of those names mentioned at the conferences over the years. And what it is a blend of three disciplines. So psychology, neuroscience, and traditional finance. I'm not going to talk to you guys today about that last piece because you have that down pat. That's our industry, right? That's why people seek us out is for our expertise in that area. So we're really going to focus more on the psychology and the neuroscience piece of it. We can talk about the biases and the framing effects and the cycle of market emotions, but you can read all of that research. You've probably read a lot of that already on your own. What it comes down to, and what I really want to communicate today, is understanding why people make the decisions they do and how to help direct those decisions. So if you have read any study about financial wellness, you know that employees believe that their employers should bear the responsibility of providing this. They should provide financial wellness education. They should provide financial wellness resources. And so conversation has been going on so long, plan sponsors get it. They understand the importance. So you've talked to them, you've got the meeting scheduled, you go out there. What are you going to do with this captive audience? Are you going to stand up there and read the TPA's enrollment materials to them out of the book? Or are you going to use the same 5-year-old canned presentation that you use for all of your meetings? Are you going to dazzle them with glide paths and the power of compounding and the latte factor? Because that's a favorite, right? What are you going to do once you are out there? The reality is there is nothing magical about the technical expertise we're offering, right? We're all financial advisors. We're all experts in that. Does the average person have the knowledge that we have around finance? No. So we're absolutely offering something of value. But any one of us could go out and talk about modern portfolio theory or dollar cost averaging, compounding, and asset allocation and risk tolerance and rebalancing. And again, a latte factor, right? Because that always comes up. But it's not about what we're saying to them. It's how we are saying it. You guys have heard that in other facets of your life. It's all in the communication. So if you're going out every year, or every 6 months, or whatever schedule you're on, and nothing is changing, you're looking at the metrics and the needle isn't moving, and you're saying, what's happening? What am I doing wrong? Please remember, with your messaging and what people are hearing and the way that humans make decisions, people make decisions based on how those decisions make them feel. So a lot of it's not rational. So if you go out and you present really good content that makes sense and it's solid and it's rational, that's not necessarily enough to make a participant go out and do something differently. So if you have ever been the person who goes out and stands up and tells a room full of millennials that they need to skip their morning coffee, you know how that goes over, right? You get a lot of looks like this. People don't like being told what to do. They don't like being told how to spend their money. They don't like being criticized for decisions that they've made. We've even had clients say, don't come out in a suit. Don't come out in a suit. Our employees will shut you down. They feel like you're trying to sell them something. So know your client, know your demographic, talk to your client about things more than just, what do you want the presentation to be about this year? What do your employees want to hear about? Talk about presentation beyond the content. What you wear might be a really good conversation to have. It might help people listen to you, listen to what you have to say, get their attention. We are not trying to tell people what to do. We are trying to help them make good decisions. So if you see a blank white screen right now, that's what you're supposed to see. You don't need to adjust. If you have ever been waiting for someone to make a decision, it can be grueling. You wait and you're trying to be patient and you're trying not to interfere. And a lot of the time, you know what you want them to do, but you're just waiting for them to figure it out. It's like, how long is this going to take? And it's really tempting to tell them what to do so that you don't have to watch them struggle through the process. But the process is important because it's really important that that decision is theirs. Consider for a moment the amount of decisions that a human is faced with every day. Okay. Experts say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 35,000. 35,000. So pretty much all we do from the time that we get up to the time that we go to bed is make decisions, okay? We're making decisions about time. How many more times can we hit snooze before we have to get up? What time do we need to leave to get to work on time? How much time are we spending at work? How much time are we spending at home? Do we have a good balance? What time should we eat lunch? What time do we need to leave to get the kids to soccer practice? What time should we go to bed? Make a lot of decisions around food. When we get home from the grocery store, where are we going to put the groceries away? Do we need to rearrange? What toppings do we want on our pizza? Rosé or white or red? What are we going to order at the restaurant? What do we need to pick up at the grocery store when we go out? What beer pairs well with this meal? What bread are we going to take to the dinner party this weekend? How are we going to season our family's meal? What flavor of gelato am I going to get when I go out with Sherry tonight? Should I go for the healthy fruit snack or should I just go for the pie? And that brings me to another point, and that there are a lot of wellness initiatives going on for an employee at any given time. And that's fantastic because that means their employer has campaigns around wellness in other facets, right? They're doing the finance piece, but they might be doing the health piece as well. And so there's all of these things that people are thinking about. They're deciding donut or apple, small or large coffee. We're even making decisions about what we feed our pets, okay? And then there's just getting ready, fragrances and nail color and ties and outfits. And ladies, if you've ever gone to buy a pair of beige heels, you know what I'm talking about, right? It is an unbelievably daunting task, and it sounds so simple. So shopping is sort of where this falls, but there's all sorts of shopping decisions right now, and those have changed recently, right? We're doing research, we're learning, we're making decisions, then we're questioning those decisions. We're doing a lot of this online. We're figuring out what toothpaste, what car, what clothes, what book we're going to read next. We are being distracted by messaging from all over. Everyone wants our attention right now. And how are we going to make these decisions? And then there's life decisions that aren't every day, but they come up from time to time and they cause stress. So how many more squeezes can I get before I have to replace this? Marjorie's birthday is coming up. How much should I spend? What should I get her? How should I wrap it? Are we going to send the kids to school in person? Are they going to go virtual? Is it going to be a blend? Do I swipe right or left? What music should I listen to? What route should I take? What are we going to watch? Who am I going to vote for? Are there apps that I'm not using that I should get rid of? Should I go with the pharmaceuticals or try a homeopathic method? We're making work decisions. We're figuring out where we want to live. And when we finally decide to buy something, do we get a good one? Do we spend a little bit more and get a better one? Or do we spend money for the best? And what color are we going to paint that wall? And then after all of these decisions, we ask them, what do you want to do with your money? So it's no wonder that they need a little nudge sometimes. And how do we give this nudge? Okay. The first piece of this is providing information. And this is what we're all good at, right? We all have the data, we have the numbers, we put these beautiful presentations together and we go out and we explain them. But a lot of times that's where it ends. We've provided the information, we've said the words, and now we're done. And we sit back and we wait. And then we wonder why things don't change. So when you're providing the information, you've got to share it in a way that the person who's listening to you cares what you're talking about. Okay, you've got to make it relatable. We're a little bit selfish as humans. And we immediately think when we're hearing something, how does this apply to me? So make it relatable. Then help them to reframe. We all have ideas about things. And one of the biases that you hear about is confirmation bias. And that's basically saying that people make decisions that align with views they already hold. Okay, humans like validation. So sometimes what we have to do is help them reframe the ideas they have about certain things so that they are able to make decisions in their best interest. And then the last piece is give them something actionable to do. If people are engaged and they take action, then you're more likely to see results that you're looking for. They're more likely to see the results that make them feel like they're making progress. And then that is that rapport being built. They feel supported by you. One of the things that we do sometimes in live education meetings is if I'm going to demo a calculator or a tool on the TPA's website, I tell people, normally we don't want people on their phones in trainings, right? It's like put the phones away, but get your phone out, open the app, go through this with me. Because the reality is, everyone has grand plans, right? Oh, I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to run all of these calculators Kelly showed me today. I'm going to be a 401k whiz. I'm going to retire at 50. But the reality is they leave your session, and between then and when they get home, life happens. And a lot of what happens in that window is what? Decision making. So be their first call, be available, build that rapport. Make tough topics easy to understand. It really goes a long way. To that point, provide your contact information at least the beginning and the end of the presentation. Remind participants who's involved in their plan and why. Make it easy to get in touch with you. If there are people who have questions and they come into the meeting knowing there's things they want to know, they're going to write down your information or take a photo at the beginning of the session. There's going to be people who think that they're in this meeting just because they have to be. And they're going to listen to what you have to say, and they're going to realize they have questions too. And so they're going to want that contact information at some point. And so I always provide it at the end again for those people, as well as the information for the TPA or the record keeper. And I explain who I am as the advisor, what my role is, what we can help with, who the TPA or the record keeper is, what their role is. And then I always say, whatever your question is, you can always start with me. If you call me and ask me to reset your password, I'm just going to provide you the contact information for someone who can help you, right? You want to be that go-to person. If they're calling you first, it's because they've made some kind of a connection with you. You've made a connection with them. They feel that comfort level and they're coming to you for help, you specifically. So that's a wonderful thing. The other thing, when you think about kicking off a presentation, it's always that awkward time when you're jumping into what you're going to say. You've introduced yourself. How do I make these people in this room or on this webinar want to listen to what I have to say? Because I feel like what I have to share with them is really important. Well, I scare them a little. And I actually call it that. I say, I'm going to start off with some scary numbers. Share some data with them, some real statistics that make them understand why they should listen to what you have to say. You don't want to make it so scary that the financial topic, whether it's 401k or emergency savings or budgeting or whatever you're talking about, is so scary that it's insurmountable. But you want it to be just enough that they say, yeah, I'm in that situation and I want to get out of that situation. And I feel like this person can tell me some things that might help me get to that end. So I'm going to listen. So share some of those numbers. The other thing that's really helpful is to set expectations at the beginning. Tell people why they're there. Tell them why you're there. What's the point? Why are we all sitting in this room together, right? I'm not here just to check a box. I'm here because there are some things that I want you to think about. I want you to think about how much you need to be saving. Once you figure out what that goal is, I want you to think about how you're going to get there. And then I want you to think about where your money is as far as the investments in your plan. Okay? And that's all you have to say. And then you can go in and obviously make sure that your content matches up with that, right? Don't tell people you're going to give them information about something that you don't talk about, but just make it simple. This doesn't need to be an agenda where you have, Roman numeral 1 and then capital A, and then you go through this whole thing. No one wants to see that, but give them a realistic preview of what we're going to talk about so that they're interested and they know what to expect and they start thinking about questions. When you are sharing the material, inevitably you're going to use examples. We all do it because it helps it be relatable, right? We want to make these people have some kind of connection to their real life so they understand this is for you. This information will help you. When you do that, though, make sure that you're using relevant examples. And you may have some crossover between groups, but if you go out to a professional firm, let's say engineering or a law firm or an architecture firm, and you use examples about happy hours or the morning green drink or monthly subscriptions, they understand that. They buy those things and they can think in their head how much they spend on those things. You may have groups, though, that's not relatable for. These are not things that they buy. There may be some crossover, though, like I said. There may be some things that you use in both, but make sure that the examples you're using are relatable. Otherwise, you lose their attention on this piece, but you've lost it likely for the rest of the presentation. Okay, so make sure that when you are preparing this, you're not using the same canned examples in every presentation. It doesn't mean that you need to call your client and say, what do your employees buy for lunch, and customize it per client, but just be cognizant of that fact when you are coming up with examples. And they may not be photos in your presentation, but even when you're verbalizing an example of things that you can give up to put the money in your 401k, make sure that they are relatable. However, when you do this, be careful. Use relevant examples without scolding. Because remember what I said, people don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be made to feel that their decisions were stupid or ill-informed. So when you are communicating this, make sure that your emotional competencies are in check. You want to avoid any behavior that prevents you from building rapport with your audience. feel free to say things like, I certainly didn't save 15% right out of the gate when I started my career, or other things that allude to the fact that you're not perfect, right? You're not a perfect example. You understand what they're going through. You've been there. A real example that I use for meetings is I tell people, when I was 16, I got my very first job. It was super exciting. I came home and I told my dad, I got hired, and he said, oh, that's great. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited. Do they have a 401k? I didn't ask that question. Dad, I don't know what that is. I asked, do I have to work weekends and do I have to wear a uniform? But I didn't ask about that thing. And he said, well, it's a retirement benefit. You ask them about it when you go back. So I get into the orientation. I'm the only 16-year-old in the orientation saying, do you have a 401k? And they're explaining, we do have a 401k. You have to be 18 to get in. The match is 75% of the first 6%. And I'm furiously writing this down. I have no idea what any of it means, but I know I'm going to be asked when I get home. So I get all of the information. You guys, I kid you not, on my 18th birthday, in my birthday card, my dad wrote all the same stuff. You were born at this time. I remember it like it was yesterday. I've never felt so much happiness. P.S. Get in your 401k. So I did, because I was told to. He said, put at least 6%. Fine, did it. And just like we tell participants, I didn't even notice it coming out of my paycheck, right? I just adjusted to that new amount. So when I left that job, it was almost 2 years ago. I was 19, almost 20. And I left and I went to work somewhere else. And it came in the mail a few weeks later, distribution packet. So I found out that I had this, $8,000, whatever it was, that I didn't know about. Sounded like a lot of money to me, super excited, and you know where this is going. So I took a distribution. So I ate the taxes, I ate the penalty, and I got this check, and it sounded like a lot of money. And you guys, I didn't need it. I didn't need it for anything. I had all these ideas about what I could do with it, right? So for those of you who are wondering what my dad said when he found out about my decision, he still doesn't know. I'm hoping that it never comes up. It may at some point, I don't know, but be careful with your tone and be relatable. And you don't have to seem like you're perfect. You just have to seem like you're an expert and you're experienced. And that's what people are looking for. So don't just offer problems, help with solutions. Let me go ahead and just fix that real quick. Yeah, we'll get rid of that A word. We don't like that A word, right? So help, support, and guidance. That's what we are providing. We want to make sure that we are approachable. People feel comfortable with us, because our goal is to improve decision-making behavior. And there are going to be metrics that you can use to measure your success. Your plan sponsor might be asking for those. So you're there to be supportive. You're there to act as a guide. Few tips for communicating. Nagging and repetition are different. Okay, there's different ideas and different research that's been done about how many times a human needs to hear something to remember it. But there is a phenomenon called the mere exposure effect. So this is also known in some circles as the familiarity principle. But it basically says that humans are going to exhibit a preference for something that they are familiar with. So repeating the same concept different ways, not just from year to year, that's also helpful, but in the same presentation, because participants may not realize that they're hearing it more than once, but feel free to call attention to what you're doing. Say, I know this is the third time you've heard me say, make sure you're saving at least X%, but it's really, really important. They will realize that when you keep saying it and they're aware that you're saying it, they'll notice it and it will start to become familiar. Also be cognizant of different learning styles. Some people need to hear it. Some people need to see it. Some people need to do it, right? Taking out the phone and going through those things together. So keep all of that in mind when you are designing your content. Reinforce topics from year to year. Make links between things. If you go out and you talk about the 401k and people tell you that I can't afford it, that's the reason I don't save. It's not that I don't know what's important. It's that I don't have the extra money. That is them telling you, even though they're not saying it in these words, they're telling you they need a session on budgeting, or debt management, right? They need some kind of a follow-up to help them. And so when you go out and have that budgeting meeting, make connections. Repeat things you said in the 401k meeting and the budgeting meeting. And then if you go out later and you talk about emergency savings or HSAs or whatever your next follow-up topic is, again, repeat things you talked about in the 401k. Call attention to it. I mentioned this when I was out here talking to you about your 401k. Help people connect those dots, because what we're really trying to do is improve their whole financial picture, right? And so we've made those connections because of what we do professionally. We want to help them make those same connections in plain terminology and in a relatable way. How many times have I said relatable to you guys in this presentation? Probably at least 3, okay? So make sure you're reinforcing that. Again, the confirmation bias comes into play here. You're going to fight with that. People are going to look for and interpret information in a way that reinforces or confirms something they already believe. So that is something else we have to overcome if those predispositions they have aren't accurate. And then the last thing is to be aware of biases. And here's the important part, both your own and those of your audience. Sometimes the way we feel about something may creep into the way that we present content. If you're really, really passionate about Roth, you may really talk a lot about Roth in a presentation because you believe it's a good choice. And whether it is or not, what might happen is for someone who really would like to do Roth and get that tax benefit, but they can't afford to pay the taxes right now, and that's going to be the difference between them getting in the plan or not getting in the plan, or them feeling like, well, I can't do 6% Roth, so that 2% traditional contribution I was going to do, it's probably not good enough, so I'll probably just wait. So be aware of how you're saying those things and things that may come through that are unintentional, but very obvious. So that is what I had for you guys today. Again, please submit any questions you have in that questions panel. I will be given a report with your name and your email address and the question that you asked, and so I can reach out to you individually. I said this in the beginning. I know you're inundated with virtual meetings right now, so the fact that you chose to spend a half hour with me today is awesome. I hope you found this helpful, and have a wonderful day.